In this video I'm gonna pit Windows 11 against two gaming Linux distros, Nobara 40 and CachyOS, using the 7900 XTX in 11 games. When it comes to Windows, I've used the latest graphics drivers available 24.12.1, but this time around I used the full installation. I have disabled core isolation and made sure to have the latest AMD chipset drivers and Windows updates. Moving on to CachyOS. On the screen now is the kernel version and some OS information. All the latest updates were applied. As some have suggested in the comments section of a previous video that I did featuring this distribution, but with an NVIDIA GPU, this time around I've used the gaming meta package. I followed the instruction on the page and I used Steam Native coupled with CachyOS Proton tweaked version and all other settings mentioned on this page. When it comes to Latris, I was not able to make it work using the wine version that the gaming package comes with. It simply refused to launch, so I had to use Proton Experimental to test Dragon Age the Veilguard and Grand Theft Auto 5. Last but not least, Nobara 40. On the screen now is the kernel version and some OS information. All the latest updates were applied. When it comes to the translation layer used in Steam, for this distribution I went with Proton Experimental. I wanted to use Proton GE, but the latest version is from early November, so I went ahead with Proton Experimental as it's newer and it has more tweaks for newer games that are included in this comparison. I made sure that game mode is on and I checked that it's active, as you can see here in Age of Mythology. For Latris I used as well Proton Experimental. I wanted to include Pop! OS as well in this video, but due to an issue I encountered on Nobara 40, on this after the chart overview part, I lost a lot of time trying to solve it. A new version of Proton Experimental was released, so I decided to skip Pop! OS, as the newer version may have performance tweaks that the previous versions used on Nobara 40 or CachyOS don't, thus influencing the results. As always, I'm gonna show side-by-side runs, but feature only 15 seconds from a run, as those are between 40 and 50 seconds long, or even more. This applies as well to internal benchmark runs. The gaming settings will be displayed before each run in case you want to check those out. Be aware that at 4K I enable FSR set to quality only when RT is enabled. That's it. To understand if the game is stuttering, I advise to check the 0.1% lows and the frame time graph, as some video runs may be a bit choppy due to the encoding used. My bad here. I would not read too much into the power display by MSI Afterburner in Windows and what we can see in Linux shown by G-Overlay. I would guide myself only by the GPU clocks displayed. I don't have a way to measure only the GPU power consumption while gaming in both operating systems, but I have a power meter socket and I didn't see much difference, if any, while gaming. Take that with a grain of salt, as the power meter outlet will show the power that the PC drains from the wall, so any small power variance will be hidden.
This place is a total mess. This place is a total mess.
What? Ooh, come to daddy. Which one you want, nigga?
For those that are colorblind, the first bar for each game represents the 1% low and the averages. The second one are the CachyOS results, while the third bar are the ones for Nobara 40. As we can see, Windows 11 only shines in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, where it leads with more than 20 frames per second, while both Linux distros deliver good frame rates. As averages above 160 are good in my opinion, the visual glitches are noticeable. So I recommend waiting a bit for some tweaks for this game. More on this later. In all other games, both Linux distros were at least equal to Windows, but in most of these, the two deliver better performance. CachyOS shines yet again in Age of Mythology, as it did when using a NVIDIA GPU. It seems that the tweaks that it has helps a lot in CPU-bound scenarios. When it comes to GTA 5, both distros deliver the same performance, while Windows had worse results due to the engine's limitations. In Windows, if you reach above 180 frames per second, it will massively stutter, dropping GPU clocks and power, while on Linux the drop is less disturbing but still there. This is why it's recommended to cap your frame rate. I wouldn't read too much on this one though. Nobara 40 fared a bit better in Dragon Age, the Veilguard, matching Windows 11 and besting CachyOS by around 10 frames per second in averages. It seems that the open source drivers perform better than AMD's Windows drivers, thus making Linux a bit better for single player games. Enabling ray tracing at 1440p changes the dynamics, and Windows 11 leads here. There are no results for Nobara 40 in Black Myth Wukong due to an issue I encountered. More on this later. Upping the resolution to 4K without ray tracing, Windows 11 is bested in most games except Dragon Age, the Veilguard, and maybe Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Looking at GTA 5, I'm not sure if it performs better or not on Linux. The graphic settings applied in Windows are not that easy to apply on Linux. More on this later. Age of Mythology saw the biggest performance gap between Linux, especially CachyOS, and Windows. CachyOS delivered more than 15 frames per second averages and close to the same value, 1% lows. Nobara 40 stood out a bit in Dragon Age, the Veilguard, almost matching Windows 11, but it didn't disappoint in any other game tested. Enabling RT and upscaling set to quality at 4K doesn't change anything when compared to the 1440p results. Windows 11 is better overall when ray tracing is in the mix, at least for now. Don't forget that these are the open source drivers, as the proprietary AMD driver for Linux will lower the performance gap, but I never tested with those. Moving to the overall results, Linux fares better when ray tracing is disabled. Even if I would remove the GTA 5 results, that will not change things. Linux would still have the lead at 1440p and 4K as well. With that said, keep in mind that not all games may work on Linux. It's best to check ProtonDB website and see if your favorite old games are supported, as it seems that most new release games work. Some will have some minor glitches, like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, but I believe this will be addressed down the road. Now, not everything is perfect in Linux. GTA 5 is a pain when it comes to setting up the graphics settings. I had issues in disabling VSync and enabling some settings. To be honest, I'm not sure if the graphics settings shown in the side-by-side runs were applied properly, but looking at the capture runs, to my eyes, it looks the same on Windows as on Linux. Another issue that I want to mention, and the reason why I didn't have any Black Myth Wukong ray tracing results for Nobara 40, is that it refused to work. I tried different Proton version, removed the game modded command, tried ProtonG, but nothing. Every time I attempted to play the game using ray tracing, it completely froze and I couldn't do anything. I had to reset the PC. One time I managed to see the error due to the fact that I pressed Alt plus Tab and I saw a message stating the crash was due to a graphics reset. This issue was happening only in Black Myth Wukong and only on Nobara. As I mentioned previously, Indiana Jones has visual glitches on Linux. Even with the latest Proton version, these glitches are not fixed, as you can be seen now using Pop OS. I hope this game will be fixed soon, and because of the visual glitches, if you are on Linux and at least on AMD hardware, I would advise to wait a bit. This way you will benefit from newer patches that may fix bugs as well. And there you go, a comparison between Windows 11 and Linux for gaming using an AMD GPU. I think that Linux is becoming viable, if not the best option, for single-player games when using newer AMD GPUs. I can't say that for older hardware as well, as I don't have any other AMD GPU. I played Dragon Age the Veilguard, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Indiana Jones and a few more games on CachyOS to reach the areas seen in these side-by-side runs, and I didn't encounter any crashes. With that said, games on Windows simply work, perform close or equal to Linux, and in some new released ones a bit better. Add ray tracing in the mix and Windows has a small advantage. Add competitive games and Windows has the upper hand. It boils down to what type of games you play. For single player games without ray tracing, Linux is a bit better. For anything else, Windows has the upper hand. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching and hope to see you all in the next one.